In this video, we're going to see how to create pivot charts, cross tabulation, but this time, instead of using tables, instead of using pivot tables, we're going to use pivot charts. We're going to use data file restaurants. So here we have the list of 300 restaurants. And for each restaurant, we have the quality rating. We know that if the restaurant is good, very good, or excellent. We have the average meal price for each restaurant, and we have the average wait time for each restaurant. Now we are going to create a pivot chart. For pivot chart, you need to go to the Insert tab. So we had pivot table under the tables group. We also have pivot chart under the charts group. But the nice thing about pivot chart is that it allows you, if you're more comfortable with pivot table, which we are, most of us are, because pivot tables are more common. You can also pick this one, pivot chart and pivot table, and create both of them. So I'm gonna actually go with this one, pivot chart and pivot table together. And I'm gonna, so the whole table is sensed by Excel. So it's here. And this time I'm gonna put it in a new worksheet just to have more space. And now you can see we have two canvas. We have a pivot table and a pivot chart. Nothing has been done yet. It's just an empty table and empty graph. Here, just look at the difference between these two. The only difference is that here for the tables, we had rows and columns. For the chart, the rows will be on the axis, and then the columns will be on the legend of these charts. It's up to you. They're the same. If you do the chart, the table will be shaped. If you do the table, the chart will be, according to whatever you do, will be created. So I'm gonna, doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go ahead and create the same table that we did last time. So we had quality ratings on the rows. We had the meal price on columns, and we had, let me just make it a little larger. And we had average wait time, two decimals, that's, or one decimal, that's fine. Okay, average. And just to make it a little less crowded, you may want to group, just right click on one of these numbers, numbers on the header for the column, for the meal price, and group, and that's it. Okay. And now see how the pivot chart is created. The rows under the axis, and this, instead of this drop down list that we had here, we have the same thing here. So you have the option to remove one of them if you don't, if you want to see a specific one, or if you basically want to apply a filter, we have the same filters for both rows and columns. And the columns here, the meal prices are the legend, different columns, basically different colors on this clustered column chart that we have here. And that's another way for cross tabulation, for visualizing the data. And if you just want to show the pivot chart, you can just copy this one and put this part only in your report. If you want to show the pivot table, you can just focus on that, or you may want to include both of them in your report, depending on the case, depending on the reader